This is an audio-visual presentation on ratio and proportion. A ratio compares things. Now, when we say a ratio A is to B, this is equal to A over B. That is A divided by B. That means that we are comparing A and B. And so when we say the ratio 5 is to 7, this is equal to 5 divided by 7. That is, we are comparing 5 to 7. And so 5 is to 7 is equal to 5 divided by 7. Example: in a class of 30 students, 12 are girls. What is the ratio of boys to girls? In a class of 30 students, 12 are girls. What is the ratio of boys to girls? Now let's analyze this question before we solve. When we look at the question, we have 30 students in a class. Out of the 30 students, 12 are girls. That means that if you want to know the number of boys in the class, then you have to subtract 12 from 30 so that you get a number of boys. Now, the question says, what is the ratio of boys to girls? So we are comparing the boys to the girls. Now let's see how best we can solve this problem. Solution: the total number of students is equal to 30. From the question, the number of girls is equal to 12. So if the total number of students is equal to 30 and the number of girls is equal to 12, if you want to know the number of boys, we have to subtract the number of girls from the total number of students. And so the number of boys is equal to 30 minus 12. That is, we subtract the number of girls from the total number of students in order to get the number of boys. And so the number of boys is equal to 30 minus 12, where 30 is the total number of students and 12 is the number of girls. And so the number of boys is equal to 30 minus 12, and that is equal to 18. Now the ratio of boys to girls will now be equal to 18 is to 12. That is, the number of boys is equal to 18 and the number of girls is equal to 12. So because we are comparing the two ratios, we are comparing the ratio of boys to girls. And so the ratio of boys to girls is equal to 18 is to 12, where the 18 is the number of boys and the 12 is the number of girls. Now 18 is to 12 can also be simplified as 3 is to 6. Why? We divide through by a common number. And so when we divide 18 by 6, the result is 3. And when we divide 12 also by 6, the result is 2. So it means that the ratio 18 is to 12 is equal to 3 is to 2. Example: solve for x. A. 6x is to 64 is equal to 18 is to 32. B. 4 is to x plus 5 is equal to 1 is to 2. Now let's look at how best we can solve this problem. Solution: A. From the question, we were given 6x is to 64 is equal to 18 is to 32. Now we said ratio compare things, and therefore if we have 6x is to 64 is equal to 18 is to 32, then that means that the left hand side can be simplified as 6x divided by 64. As we saw from the beginning, 6x is to 64 can be simplified as 6x divided by 64. This is equal to 18 is to 32 is also equal to 18 divided by 32. Now solving for the problem means we are supposed to find the value of x. So we have to cross multiply. So by cross multiplication, 6x on the left hand side multiplies 32 on the right hand side. That is the numerator on the left hand side multiplies the denominator on the right hand side. That is cross multiplication. So we have 6x times 32 on the left hand side. This is equal to 64 times 18. That is the denominator on the left hand side multiplies the numerator on the right hand side. And so we have 64 times 18. And that is how come we have 64 times 18 here. Now, when we multiply 6x by 32, the answer is 192x. And this is equal to 64 times 18 is equal to 1152. Now, if 192x is equal to 1152 and we are solving for x, it means that we have to divide both sides of the equation by the constant attached to the variable x. And so we divide the left hand side of the equation by 192. Then we divide the right hand side of the equation by 192. When we divide the left hand side by 192, we are left with x. And dividing the right hand side by 192, we have 1152 divided by 192. And the answer is equal to 6. This means that the value of x is equal to 6. Now, we consider the solution to the question in B. From the question, we were given 4 is to x plus 5 into bracket is equal to 1 is to 2. Now, on the left hand side, 4 is to x plus 5 can be simplified as 4 divided by x plus 5, as was seen from the beginning. This is equal to, on the right hand side, 1 is to 2 is also equal to 1 over 2. Now here we also cross multiply. So the denominator on the left hand side multiplies the numerator on the right hand side. And so x plus 5 times 1 will give us the same x plus 5. This is equal to 4 times 2 will give us 8. So x plus 5 is equal to 8. Now we are solving for x. So let's group the constants on the right hand side. Now plus 5 on the left hand side becomes minus 5 on the right hand side. And so we have x is equal to 8 minus 5. X is equal to 8 minus 5. And this is equal to 3. This implies that the value of x is equal to 3. This implies that the value of x is equal to 3. Now, let's look at proportional division. Proportional division. This is all about dividing or sharing something about a given ratio. It's about dividing or sharing something about a given ratio. Now let's look at this problem. A man divides 360 cattle between his sons in the ratio 7:6:5. Find the smallest share. Now let's analyze this question before we solve. A man divides 360 cattle. So the total number of cattle. The total number of cattle is 360. Now the man divides these 360 cattle between his sons in the ratio 7:6:5. Now we are supposed to find the smallest share. Now take note that the smallest share corresponds to the smallest ratio. I repeat, the smallest share corresponds to the smallest ratio. Now let's see how we can solve this problem. Solution. The ratio from the question is 7:6:5. So the total number of parts is equal to 7 plus 6 plus 5. That is the total number of parts is equal to the sum of the ratio. So we have 7 plus 6 plus 5. And that is equal to 18. Because 7 plus 6 is 13. And 13 plus 5 is equal to 18. That means that the total number of parts is equal to 18. Now the smallest share corresponds to 5. The smallest share corresponds to 5. That is the smallest ratio. So now the smallest share will be equal to the smallest share divided by the sum of the ratio times the total number of cattle. the smallest share is equal to the smallest ratio divided by the total number of ratio, the total ratio times 360. Now, this is equal to 5 divided by 18 times 360. And the answer is 100 cattle. The answer is 100 cattle. So the smallest share is equal to 100 cattle. Now, I repeat. The smallest share corresponds to the smallest ratio. And so if you want to find the smallest share, then you have to divide the smallest ratio by the sum of the ratio. Then you multiply by the total number of cattle. And so we have 5 divided by 7 plus 6 plus 5. And 7 plus 6 plus 5 is equal to 18. So we have 5 over 18 times 360. And that is equal to 100 cattle. That means that the smallest share is equal to 100 cattle. Now example. Akwe, Bolabi, and Chawi share 170 Ghana cedis in the ratio 19:29:37 respectively. How much does Bolabi get than Akwe? Now before we solve this problem, let's analyze this question. We have Akwe, Bolabi, and Chawi to share 170 Ghana cedis in the ratio 19:29:37 respectively. So the respectively means that Akwe's ratio, that is the first person, corresponds to the first ratio. So Akwe's ratio is 19. The second person, that is Bolabi, corresponds to the second ratio, that is 29. And the third person, that is Chawi, corresponds to the third ratio, that is 37. That is the meaning of the respectively. That means that the first person corresponds to the first ratio, the second person corresponds to the second ratio, and the third person corresponds to the third ratio. That is the meaning of the respectively. Now, how much does Bolabi get than Akwe? How much does Bolabi get than Akwe? If you can know how much Bolabi gets than Akwe, then we have to calculate how much Bolabi gets. And we also have to calculate how much Akwe got. I repeat, if you want to know how much Bolabi gets than Akwe, then we have to calculate how much Bolabi and Akwe got before we can get the difference. So now let's look at how we can solve the problem. Solution. We have Akwe, Bolabi, and Chawi. These are the three people. Now, the ratio from the question is 19:29:37. So respectively means that the first person corresponds to the first ratio, the second person corresponds to the second ratio, and the third person corresponds to the third ratio. Now, if you want to know Akwe's share will be equal to Akwe's ratio divided by the total ratio times the amount they are sharing. That is 170 Ghana cedis. So if you want to know Akwe's ratio, that's Akwe's share, is equal to Akwe's ratio, that is 19. Akwe's ratio is 19. So if you want to know Akwe's share, it's equal to 19 divided by the sum of the ratios times the amount, 170 Ghana cedis. And 19 divided by 19 plus 29 plus 37 times 170 Ghana cedis is equal to 38 Ghana cedis. That means that Akwe's share is equal to what? 38 Ghana cedis. Akwe's share is equal to 38 Ghana cedis. Now we consider Bolabi's share. Bolabi is the second person, and the second person corresponds to the second ratio because of the respectively. So it means that Bolabi's ratio is 29. So if you want to know Bolabi's share, then we have to divide Bolabi's ratio by the total ratio. Then we multiply by the amount they are sharing. And so Bolabi's share will be equal to 29. That is Bolabi's ratio is equal to 29. So we divide 29 by the sum of the ratio. That is 19 plus 29 plus 37. Then we multiply the results by the amount. That is 170 Ghana cedis. And the answer is 58 cedis. So Bolabi's share is equal to 58 Ghana cedis. Bola B share, which is equal to Bola B's ratio divided by the sum of the ratio times the amount they are sharing, will be equal to 58 Ghana cedis. So Bola B share equals 58 Ghana cedis. Now take note that from our calculation, Akwe share is equal to 38 Ghana cedis and Bola B share is equal to 58 Ghana cedis. Therefore, Bola B gets 58 Ghana cedis minus 38 Ghana cedis. That is equal to 20 Ghana cedis more than Akwe. So it means that Bola B gets 20 Ghana cedis more than Akwe, because the difference between Bola B's share and Akwe's share is equal to 20 Ghana cedis. So Bola B gets 20 Ghana cedis more than Akwe. Example: 3 school children share oranges as follows. 3 school children share oranges as follows. Akwasi gets 1/3 of the total, and the remainder is shared between Abena and Jantua in the ratio 3:2. If Jantua gets 24 oranges, how many does Akwasi get? I repeat, Akwasi gets 1/3 of the total, and the remainder is shared between Abena and Jantua in the ratio 3:2. If Jantua gets 24 oranges, how many does Akwasi get? How many does Akwasi get? Now, let's analyze this problem. We can see that Akwasi gets 1/3 of the total. So if the total number of oranges is known, then we can take 1/3 of it to get Akwasi's own share. I repeat, if you know the total number of oranges, then we can multiply 1/3 by the total to get Akwasi's share of the oranges. Now let's see how we can solve this problem. Solution: the total fraction, as we know, is equal to 1. Let the total number of oranges is equal to y, because from the question we are not given the total number of oranges. So let the total number of oranges be equal to y. Now Akwasi gets 1/3 of the total. So if the total number of oranges is equal to y and Akwasi gets 1/3 of it, it means that Akwasi share is equal to 1/3 of y. So if the y is known, then we can multiply the y by 1/3 in order to get how many oranges Akwasi got. Now, the remainder will be equal to 1. That is total fraction. The total fraction minus Akwasi's share. And Akwasi's share of the oranges is 1/3 of y. So if you subtract 1/3 of y from the total fraction, that will give us the remainder. So the remainder is equal to 1 minus 1/3 y. Now let's proceed. The remainder is equal to 1 minus 1/3 y, where 1 is the total fraction and 1/3 y is Akwasi's share, because Akwasi had 1/3 of the total and the total equals y. So the remainder will be equal to 1 minus 1/3 y, and 1 minus 1/3 y is equal to 2/3y. That means that the remainder is equal to 2/3y. The remainder is equal to 2/3y. Now let's proceed. From the question, Abena and Jantua share this remainder in the ratio 3:2. Take note that the remainder is equal to 2/3y. The remainder is equal to 2/3y. And from the question, Abena and Jantua share this remainder in the ratio 3:2. Now the total number of parts equals 3 plus 2. That is 3 plus 2. And that is equal to 5. Now Abena is to Jantua is equal to 3:2. That's the ratio. That means that Abner's ratio is 3 and Jan 12's ratio is 2. From the question, Jan 12's share equals 24. Jan 12's share of the oranges is equal to 24. So if Jan 12's ratio equals 2, then if you want to know Jan 12's share, then what we have to do is to equate Jan 12's share to 2 over 5 times 2 over 3y. Now I repeat, from the question, Abner is to Jan 12 is equal to 3 is to 2. That means that Abner's ratio is 3 and Jan 12's ratio is 2. Now, Jan 12's share of the oranges is equal to 24 from the question. So if you want to calculate Jan 12's share from this ratio, then it is 2 divided by the total ratio times the remainder left. And so 2 divided by 5, because the total ratio is 5. That is 3 plus 2. So if you want to know Jan 12's share, it is Jan 12's ratio by the total ratio. That is 2 over 5 times the remainder. And the remainder is 2 over 3y. And this is equal to 24 because Jan 12's share is equal to 24 from the question. So we have 2 over 5 times 2 over 3y is equal to 24. Now let's proceed. We have 4y divided by 15 is equal to 2y. Where did you get 4y over 15 from? Now when we go back, you realize that we have 2 over 5 times 2 over 3y is equal to 24. So we multiply 2 by 2. So 2 times 2 will give us 4. And 4 times y will give us the 4y. Divided by, when we multiply 5 by 3, the result is 15. That means that 2 over 5 times 2 over 3y is equal to 4y over 15 is equal to 24. And that is how come we had 4y divided by 15 is equal to 24. Now we are going to cross multiply. Now 24 on the right hand side is the same as 24 divided by 1. So the denominator is 1. Now if you want to cross multiply, the denominator that is 1 multiplies 4y. And 4y times the 1 is equal to 4y. This is equal to 15 multiplies 24. And 15 times 24. Now, if you have 4y on the left hand side, it's equal to 15 times 24 on the right hand side. We are solving for y. So we have to divide the left hand side by 4. And we divide the right hand side also by 4. If we divide 4y by 4, we are left with y. And when we divide the right hand side by 4, we have 15 times 24 divided by 4. And this is equal to 90. This means that the value of y is equal to 90. Where y is the total number of oranges. That means that the total number of oranges is equal to 90. Now, Akwasi's share from the problem was 1/3 of y. Where y is the total number of oranges. Now, from our calculation, the total number of oranges is equal to 90. Take note, 1/3 of y. Off means multiplication. So 1/3 of y equals 1/3 times 90 because y is now 90 from our calculation. That is the total number of oranges. So Akwasi's share will be equal to 1/3 of 90. That is 1/3 times 90. And 3 goes into 90 30 times. That means that Akwasi's share of the oranges is equal to 30 oranges. That means that Akwasi's share of the oranges is equal to 30. Now, let's look at financial partnership. Financial partnership. Let's consider this problem. 3 partners, Ali, John, and Amma, invested 25,000 Ghana cedis, 15,000 Ghana cedis, and 35,000 Ghana cedis, respectively, in a joint venture. So the respectively means that the first person corresponds to the first amount. So Ali's amount is 25,000 Ghana cedis. John's amount is 15,000 Ghana cedis. And Ahmed's amount is 35,000 Ghana cedis. That is the meaning of the respectively. Now, these 3 partners, Ali, John, and Amma, invested 25,000 Ghana cedis, 15,000 Ghana cedis, and 35,000 Ghana cedis, respectively, in a joint venture. Now, let's continue. If they shared 150,000 Ghana cedis in the ratio of their investment, please take note. If they share 150,000 Ghana cedis in the ratio of their investment, how much did each receive? How much did each receive? So this is the amount that they are sharing. That is 150,000 Ghana cedis in the ratio of their investment. In the ratio of their investment. It means that if we can get the ratio, then we have to compare their investment. Now let's proceed. Solution. The profit is to be shared in the ratio to their investment. Thus, Ali is to John is to Amma. Ali's investment is 25,000. John's investment is 15,000. And Amma's investment is 35,000. Now we can divide their investment by 1,000 in order to reduce it. Now when we divide 25,000 by 1,000, we have 25. When we divide 15,000 by 1,000, we have 15. And when we divide 35,000 by 1,000, we have 35. That means that the ratio is equal to 25 is to 15 is to 35. So this is now the ratio. This is now the ratio. That's Ali is to John is to Amma is equal to 25 is to 15 is to 35. This is now their ratio. Now, the total profit shared is 150,000 Ghana cedis from the question. That's the total profit. So this is the amount the three of them are going to share. Now we know that Ali is to John is to Amma. Their ratio is 25 is to 15 is to 35. That means that Ali's ratio is 25. John's ratio is 15 and Amma's ratio is 35. Now if you want to know Ali's profit, then it's going to be Ali's ratio divided by the total ratio times the profit to be shared. And so Ali's profit will be Ali's ratio, that is 25, divided by the total times the amount, that's the profit to be shared, that's the 150,000. So 25 divided by 25 plus 15 plus 35. Now 25 plus 15 plus 35 is equal to 75. So we have 25 divided by 75 times the profit to be shared, that is 150,000. And this is equal to 50,000 Ghana cedis. So that means that Ali's profit is equal to 50,000 Ghana cedis. Now let's continue. The profit to be shared is still 150,000 Ghana cedis. We now consider John's profit. And John's profit, John ratio corresponds to 15. So if you want to know John's profit, we have to divide John's ratio, that is 15, by the total. So we have 15 divided by 25 plus 15 plus 35. Then we multiply the answer by the total profit. That is the profit to be shared. That is 150,000 Ghana cedis. So we have 15 divided by 75 times 150,000 Ghana cedis. And this is equal to 30,000 Ghana cedis. That means that John's profit is equal to 30,000 Ghana cedis. Now, Amma's profit, we have to consider Amma's ratio. And the ratio of Ali is to John is to Amma is 25 is to 15 is to 35. So we can see that Amma's ratio is 35. Amma's ratio is 35. So if you want to know Amma's profit, then we have to divide Amma's ratio by the total ratio. Then we multiply by the profit to be shared. And so we have 35 divided by 25 plus 15 plus 35 times 150,000. And so we have 35 divided by 75 times 150,000. And the answer is 70,000 Ghana cedis. That means that Amma's profit is equal to 70,000 Ghana cedis. This is the end of our presentation on ratio and proportion.